Well, that's why I'm more worried about these future areas that aren't developed yet.
Mm-hmm.
How do you avoid? You just talked about, okay, we saw this 20 years ago and we had to throw up our hands.
Right.
Well, I don't want you to be here 20 years from now going, well, my God, we talked about this 20 years ago and
Right.
we didn't do anything. We're throwing up our hands again.
Right.
How do you avoid that problem? And certainly you can make developers pony up with some road improvements and things like that. I don't remember some of the roads that the names of them that go out to some of these areas, but out 389, out to 12, there are lots
Right.
of those areas, and they're going to be roads built as part of that.
Right.
How do you avoid having us in the same mess 20 years from now?
Well, obviously, you have planning involved, and one of the things this board has done, for example, out north where I live, is we're building a connector between Old West Point and North Montgomery that'll, in essence, connect Garrett, and a lot of this traffic is coming into the hospital, and this is going to provide a much better route for them because it's, they have more lanes than just a two-lane road like on Old West Point or North Montgomery. We have to be forward-thinking in our connectors, like that example of Pat Station Road. And then you do have to develop things. One of the things that I'm concerned about as part of our development code is we continue to have it become more restrictive, and we're forcing things down a channel that isn't necessarily good. And I'll give an example. We had a development on the north side of town where they wanted to provide sidewalks and narrower streets to calm traffic. And they actually ran afoul of city regulations for doing something that we normally encourage. And that's part of a problem when you overly restrict things or become overly prescriptive in your process. But we're going to have to open that up, but you can only do that if you have an overlay of this is the type of community that we want.
Pat Station Road, and I'm sorry, I haven't looked at the plans. Is it 4-lane or
yeah.
2-lane?
I believe it's 2-lane.
Pat Station's 2-lane.
Why not spend the extra money and make it 4-lane if it's going to become a major connector?
I think we have to obviously define what major means. There was a certain amount of right-of-way limitations that we had as part of that process. What the recommendation that we had through our engineers that was going to be sufficient, and obviously we're in the design stages of this. We have the opportunity to revisit that as part of the overall planning process.
Sufficient for how long?
That's a good question.
Well, did anybody ask it?
I don't know.
Okay, just checking.
Sumner, last question. We're close to 60 minutes.
And I don't know how quickly you can do this, okay? But the transition from a policymaker on the Board of Aldermen side of the table to the mayor's office is basically a glorified administrator. I mean, in our form of government, that's what it is. How do you see yourself making that transition? What differences under the Cox administration from a managerial standpoint, and how easily do you think you can get those implemented and up and running?
Well, first of all, we talked about mistakes. I am not naturally a legislator. It did not fit my skill sets. I'm a professional manager. That's my business background. So I actually see the transition being very smooth. Within the first 100 days, we are going to have objectives for each of the department heads for that first 100 days. And then we're going to have objectives for their performance that matches our overall city goals for each year thereafter. We have to align the city towards what we're trying to accomplish. Right now, everybody's going in different directions, and then we're surprised that we're not moving forward in the way that we need to. My background is in business. My background is in management. I agree with you. That is the primary function. It's bringing people together, but it's also providing direction to a city that needs it. I believe that as a full-time mayor, and I think I'm the only candidate that intends to be a full-time mayor and saying that publicly, that I will manage the city's operations differently. I won't send my responsibilities to a CAO. I look at what the city doesn't do very well today, and that's in the area of grants and the area of communications. And I look at retasking those responsibilities that are currently done within the mayor's office into those functions that we clearly see are lacking today.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Steve, last follow-up.
100 days.
Yes, sir.
Since Sumner brought up 100 days, and we've just passed Obama's 100 days. Will we have a plan for a police city hall building in place and a referendum date set?
No. The first 100 days we'll have this. We'll have curbside recycling, and we'll have a budget, and a budget that's not going to be very easy because of the economic conditions and with 4 new aldermen. We will have established a process. I don't know where we'll be in that process for a new municipal complex. Rather than say it's going to be 100 days, that is certainly, we're moving forward with this. It'll be top priority. But whether that referendum date is set within the first 100 days, I don't know. Within the first year, the intention is that we're going to be breaking ground.
Will we have the second $3 million road bond issued?
You know, I think that actually has more potential to be done within that first 100 days because we can take advantage of these historic low rates. We can't do another inch of pavement, as I've said very famously, in this construction season, but we can start with that process. Now, the one thing that we need to look at from an infrastructure standpoint, our plan just talks about overlays. When you go into our neighborhoods, you see that we've already put 3 overlays and we're 6 inches or more higher than the curb. We actually need to reconsider some of that and look at milling down our roads. But I think we need to strike while the iron's hot on some of these things.
Sumner.
Just a couple of points to clarify. Of course, you're going to have a budget done in the first 100 days because that's state law.
Right.
You got to have it approved.
I was going to make that point. But
Secondly, in the infrastructure plan, we did in the 4-year capital improvement plan, and in this paving program, we've got milling, we've got soil cement, all that built in as part of our $12 million. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I think, you know, it's a bit of a stretch to
yeah,
say.
but the milling we're currently doing is we're going to taper the edges of that road. I don't think that's a long-term solution.
No, actually, the milling costs when you're it better be more than just tapering it because, like, when they come in and mill Green Oak streets,
Mm-hmm.
they take the whole thing off and go down to the base, and that's
Right.
why we had to go down and soil cement those things.
Right, and there's different programs. You know, in this first year, there's in my assessment, there's a minimum of actual milling as opposed to overlaying. And that's part of our process that has been lacking is that we are behind schedule on this, and we have roads that are potentially about to fail. And I realize that it's great for some people to look and try to blame, you know, who are we going to find to blame for this? I'm much more interested in how we're going to find a solution to move us forward.
you hadn't had your engineer core drill your streets to see? I mean, that's theoretically why you have an engineer or pay an outside firm to do it, so that you are getting the most for your money.
Right.
I mean, if we're just guessing, give me my $3 million back. I don't want you guessing, and I'm not even a Starkville taxpayer, but I don't think they want you guessing either if you're just guessing.
I think you'll find the first group is rock solid, that the work that we're doing. Once you get beyond that, it is a little fuzzy, and the engineer said that. We need the additional time to get there.
Good enough. All right. Thanks, guys.